Thank you everyone for coming. What a great group of people. I feel so honored to have you all here in this space. And tonight, we're going to hear from three esteemed artists who I can't feel more honored to have their art in this collection and to have the evening to hear them talk about their art. And to facilitate that is Jeremy Stone, that people know as a gallerist. She had a gallery for many, many years and then became active in the arts community in so many capacities, I can't list them all. Plus she's just, she's such a ball of energy and a big heart. She knows so many of you from over the years. So she's perfect for the conversation tonight. So let's begin.
Thank you. I don't know if I should talk into this, or I'm also mic'd on my sweater, so I don't know if I should. I have a mic. So thank you, Marta. I want to thank Marta, Tom Hall, and also the Hall Art and Technology Foundation and everyone involved with the Floating Museum. This is such a beautiful environment for us to have a conversation about art and artists and to talk about the issues that are going on right now. I feel like we are in such an incredibly peaceful setting to talk about the powerful and historical role of artists to express ideas, feelings visually about correcting the narrative of history written by others. Topics that are sadly still very present issues, particularly in the last 3 months and getting worse. Social justice, systemic racism, sexism, economic inequalities, immigration, you name it, the freedom to control our own bodies, the right to vote, the impact of corporate priorities on climate and environmental precautions. The intersection of gender, politics, and migration and climate is indeed more perilous now, even since Rising Tides was conceived and opened. I mean,
That's right.
The show is very timely, but it's becoming, it's so timely, and sadly, it's something we have to talk about because it's more and more urgent.
I mean, I see all these friends and I think, oh, this is the party. But then I think, oh my God, what are we here for?
We are the party.
We are the party.
We are
We are the party.
This is the only
Yeah.
And we have a lot to
I want to say, you think we're coming to talk about art. I would like this to just be a party to celebrate Mildred getting a good
Thank you.
Okay. For those of you that don't know, Mildred was awarded a Guggenheim Foundation grant this week after applying for 16 times? 15. Oh, only 15. Only 15 times. That's what we call tenacity and persistence. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the emotionality and the physicality of ideas expressed in Dewey Crumpler, Mildred Howard, and Teresa Fernandez's work are powerful and immersive. But before we get to our questions, I want to introduce the three artists that I have the honor of speaking with today and whose works are represented in Rising Tides, the inaugural exhibition at the Floating Museum. I had to write this all down because there's so much I want to say. A connective and overlapping magnet for artists, the San Francisco Art Institute is where I met Dewey back in the mid-90s. I had just joined the staff and I knew Professor Crumpler striding about campus, looking very snazzy always. Striding. He doesn't strut, he strides. And he had received his BFA from the San Francisco Art Institute, but I got to know a different side of Dewey when the Washington High School mural controversy erupted nationally in 2022 with the current high school students demanding its removal. The treatment of Native Americans in the mural was historically accurate, but horrid. And Dewey had painted a response to the life of Washington that expanded the narrative and contextualized it. But Professor Crumpler went on the air explaining the history of the mural by Victor Arnautoff, a student of Diego Rivera's, and his response to it. The power of Native American culture and resilience was painted full and alive. He spoke to the school board and explained the problematic idea that Washington was a visionary and liberator. But he said also the truth. Washington was psychotic about race. Right, Dewey? Yeah. So the dialogue between the two murals was meant to educate and expand thinking. Dewey has not shied away from issues of globalization and cultural commentary. His container ship series and hoodie series are provocative explorations which demonstrate his mastery of scale. Whether it's intimate or large, a powerful impact is delivered. The hoodie series explores racial profiling of anyone wearing a hoodie, the stereotypes and systemic violence with voodoo dolls. The personal is political, and vice versa. The universal context is fear, oppression, lack of rights, lack of freedom. Dewey has exhibited in New York City at Andrew Krupp's Gallery, Art Basel, Derek Eller Gallery, New York City, a 2022 solo show at the Richmond Arts Center, and with Jenkins Johnson Gallery in Brooklyn and in San Francisco. See why I wrote it all down? What? Mildred Howard and I were both invited by the California Arts Council to talk to artists living in the San Joaquin Valley in 1995 on the business of art at a visual arts seminar at the Hagen Museum in Stockton. And I have to say, spending a whole day driving around the Central Valley with Mildred was so much fun. It was it's a day I love to remember. Mildred and I overlapped at the San Francisco Art Institute between 1995 and 2004. She was on the board of trustees while I was on staff and a visiting lecturer. Mildred was also an adjunct professor of art and has taught at many other universities and at the Exploratorium as well. She is a legend and a tireless, powerful advocate for art education. In an effort to try to save the San Francisco Art Institute, she reached out and drew in hundreds of galleries, artists, and curators to sign a petition to sell the Diego Rivera mural to save the school, which was presented to the Board of Trustees. Yeah, yeah. But Aaron Peskin didn't help us in that regard. Yeah, he kind of made, anyway, we won't go there. Okay, let's not go there. Right, Mark? Mildred has an upcoming retrospective at the Oakland Museum in 2026. Yeah. She had her own Biennale in San Francisco last year, in 2024, exhibiting at 3 different art spaces, and a 2022 solo show at the Institute of Contemporary Art San Jose. She has received an honorary doctorate from California College of the Arts, Cal State East Bay, a Lee Krasner Award, a Joan Mitchell Award, and now a long-deserved Guggenheim Foundation Fellowship Award, announced this week. Yeah, hear. She is tireless in her work, which spans mixed media, every material found or fabricated, which speaks to the power of memories and the fragility of safe spaces, how vulnerable we are. In beautiful glass houses that create sacred containers that can be seen through and broken, the public commissions break new ground in describing the importance of place and how we view our world. Teresa Fernandez received both her BFA and MFA from the San Francisco Art Institute. She is a performance artist and a painter, and her work about immigration and the border is innovative and participatory. One work with columns she described, "It is a story of us. Standing still is not an option. We must all carry the water." She uses time-based actions and social gestures to expand her vocabulary. She has characterized her work as magical nonfiction, explaining where unimaginable conditions are the reality. I seek to portray dreamscapes of what's possible. The courage to transform is up to us. I saw Anna Teresa's 2007 solo show of paintings called Pressing Matters at the Bronstein Key Gallery, and it was clear that she was off to a bold and auspicious start and career. She has exhibited widely and internationally. I've seen her work in the 2017 and 2019 Foresight Foundation installations. She has received numerous awards, grants, residencies. She teaches and lectures extensively. It is a full circle to me today and discuss ideas about how we meet the current political moment through art. Okay. If I've left off important information about you, and I'm sure I have, that you want discussed and said today, please jump in and expand on my introduction. Is there anything you guys want to know? Okay. I was trying to, it's hard to compress 3 such incredibly big lives. Yeah, and important lives. Okay. So my first question is, how through art do we fight for our country? Or do we become immigrants again, all of us, looking for a safer home base?
You want me to start?
Yeah, anyone.
I mean, I know, Dewey, you're just sick of me saying this, but I think that art is the last frontier for freedom of speech. And if we don't make what we make and express how we feel, then we lose it. And it's the perfect time. It's the perfect time to make art. And I know whatever, and it doesn't have to be political. It's the perfect time. But the silent majority is none. So we really have to do the work. I mean, we pay his salary. He's a bully. I want to bring him on. Bring him on. I'm ready for him.
Art is the first thing, and art is the last thing. Human beings blew dust on a wall in a cave 40,000 years ago, and that dust traveled through all those millennia until right this minute. And the reason artists exist is because what they do is about power. And the wealthy and the powerful use art to articulate and to make their concerns known. And that's why, as is happening right now, power comes after artists immediately. Because artists also have the capacity to critique with that same power, their power. And therefore, we are in that moment. And that's why I agree completely with Mildred, as does now the Guggenheim. Paraphrasing Newton, Frederick Douglass said, "Power concedes nothing but to a demand. It never has, and it never will." Now that's a Newtonian compilation. And that's what makers get about the business of doing, because to make is a resistance in a society that does everything possible to keep makers from speaking the truth to power. So that's what I have to say.
And I think we speak through the mediums that we invoke. To be more specific, I'll share with you an example of when I had just finished Borrando la Frontera, which is erasing the border. I got attacked through the media, through different outlets, in which I was accused of being Mexican Al-Qaeda, a terrorist, because they saw that erasure, that visual, imaginative erasure, worse than Minutemen standing with guns. So my weapon, which was paint, became more threatening because that elicited imagination. And it awakened to transcend what was imposed on us, and it awakened a sense of what could be. So it transcended the given. And that power to believe that there can be more is the threat. And that is what we do. And like Aristotle said, that wisdom begins with wonder. And so we are the wisdom seekers. We are the wisdom makers. We try and elicit wonder with what we make.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Okay. When people who are making enormous decisions about what gets funded and what gets cut do not care about the arts and education, how do we manifest change, fund change?
Well, since I've never had a lot of money,
No, you do.
and not really, but I've always made art, and not having money, it's not going to stop me. So what I feel bad about are the institutions and that depend on this funding. But look, if everyone does what Harvard did, I mean, it takes all of us, and we can't let fear stop us. Because fear is powerful, but also not being fearful is powerful, just the opposite. And we're so fortunate that we are artists, or supporters of the art, and that we live in California, and that we have one another. In California, especially Northern California, has been so important in so many movements until I'm really not worried because he's going to burn himself. I guess, I suppose, I don't like it, but I think it's going to come to an end because all those men who took off hoods and put on suits and then got fired because they worked for the government and didn't realize he was going to turn on them. 7,000 people have lost their jobs. And people, we just have to keep speaking up in whatever way we feel. I mean, I came out of the 60s. I'm not afraid. I mean, if I hung out with the Panthers, so no, I'm not afraid.
Well, I think that that we, as a collective creatively, I mean everybody, they have to join together against tyranny. And what I think is really extraordinary about this moment is that finally Americans understand what, unfortunately, Black people have had to say over and over and over and over, that the psychosis that we are plagued with was fashioned by the founding fathers who created a country based on sheer contradiction. And when you create a country that is based in contradiction, contradiction follows it throughout its existence. And that's why people who are courageous have to do like those after the founding, who pounded those words we hold these truths. Those words permitted human beings to shove them down the founding fathers' throats and ultimately create change. Now, I say this not because I don't think the founding fathers made heroic and extraordinary statements. They did. They were statements. You don't make a statement of liberty and freedom standing on the shoulders of a squirming black body while you bend over with a quill pen and sign a piece of parchment. And as you balance yourself with your patent leather buckled boots, and you look to each other and you pound the glass of champagne that you have created a democracy. That right there is an absolute, unbelievable quake in the history of consciousness. And it carries with it the truth of liberty, but one which people have to come together to make whole, because the founders didn't have the courage to say to the American people as they came, we mean freedom when we say freedom, and if you don't believe it, we will take your head off like we did the British. These bodies that we are standing on should stand up and be free like all of us. Those are courageous people. Now, I know that they shaped the argument that we are the most liberated country in the history of the world, and I believe some of that is true. But I want to say that Trump and all of the stuff that he attends to reaches back to those founding fathers in order to justify what they did, because they used my ancestors and turned them into 3/5 of a human being so that they could win political office, not because they believed them to be human, but they could gain power. And that helped them to create the Electoral College, which right now is manipulated in order to bring us Trump in spades. And that is what we are staring down the face again. And it happens every 30 years. We have to go to war with psychotics who try to make America the story that they heard, not the truth. So my point is that the creative process, the liberatory capacity of creativity of art, that's what changes minds. That's what creates a different world. And that's why art is so important. And that's why art has to be used to counteract this psychosis. And that's where people with money can join, like these Musks and others with money, to destroy liberty, and we can help to make liberty. And that's why I think it's so important to contextualize this horror that we are standing in front of. And it hasn't gotten nearly as bad as it will be if people don't get clear, because the arts are being used also to distract, which is its great capacity. And that is to create smoke and mirrors. And we are in the process now of being smoked.
Yep.
And we have to create a way to move that fog. And art can help do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Do you? No, you, I'd like you to address it too, a bit more. Yeah.
I think that having been brought up in a system in Mexico, in an educational system that didn't offer the arts as a route, as a possibility, as a pursuit in life, I found myself incredibly lost. And it wasn't until I came to the US. And so the US for me presented a world that, not just a world of women working and being professionals and making their own money. And as I kept going through the educational system, not having the arts, even within the US, there was still part of me that was lost, but was somewhat inspired to be independent. And it wasn't until I came into the arts at a community college where it was like someone lit my brain on fire. And I thought, where has this been? As a young individual who would even draw on toilet paper, I never realized that this could be a path. It could be a career. I mean, that was something my family in Mexico would laugh at. Art as a career, like, what? And so when you talk about freedom, when you talk about access, the arts are imperative. And now even more so because they're not accessible to the demographics that need it the most. The outlets, the resources, this is a different path you can take. It is not just about right and wrong. It is about you narrating your story, your experiences in whatever format and medium you'd like to do so. And it wasn't until I got to the Art Institute that I went down the ramp, opened up the doors of the painting studios, worked with Mark, worked with Dewey, and it was life-changing. And when I say it was life-changing, it was life-changing. And I think that is what a lot of our youth needs, especially youth that are brought up in public school systems. And part of my pursuit has always been to ask for more money from private institutions to pay me to do what I do so that I can give my time pro bono to the institutions that have no funding. So specifically, what we can be doing is demanding as artists to be better paid, that our time is worth it, that no, we will not be doing work for free. No, we will not be getting our brain picked. No, you will not be taking up our time, because our time, like any doctor or lawyer's time, is valuable, and you need to make it as such. You treat it as such by paying us for our time. And so I think that there are very specific ways in which to move forward to help ameliorate the situation. And it begins with including it in the educational system as a possibility, not just as a possibility, but as a path that someone can pursue. Because there's so many of us here whose lives have been altered because of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that part of the budget cutting of education and budget cutting of the arts has a lot to do with the fact that the arts teach children, teach students to question, ask questions, and religion is so much about obedience and not questioning, just obeying. And I think that's, sort of part of the current administration. Okay, so I wanted to sort of shift us over to another topic, which is climate change. And with climate change being thrown under the bus over corporate profits, the whole question of how do we protect our environment and swim our way back to the EPA in ways that we can advocate for climate change protection. I mean, how, as artists, do we do that except through art? How do we do that? I'm just asking. Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Well, first of all, I don't really, I don't think artists should be looked at prescriptively like they respond to the moment. That makers, it might take 10 or 15 years for a maker to respond to something direct. And there are all kinds of ways of making. And that's why makers are diverse in their interests and in their arguments. And I'm always shy away from prescriptives. When I was a kid, I tried to be as didactic and as immediate as possible. But as I thought my banging people over the head would open up some pores, it didn't. And as I grew to understand that heads belong to individuals, and the more you bang on them, including your own, you don't open, you close. And therefore, you have to learn to create dialogues. And dialogues can help to create change in a person, maybe. But that's not an artist's job. I don't believe an artist's role is to beam you up like Scotty. I think an art, and that's why I don't believe in this idea, this linear idea about the new. You know, I taught at a school that was all about the new until they collapsed in the old. Because the point is to make at the highest level possible and to leave room for makers to make it. People always come for what they need. And they'll find artists that speak to their moment. But you have to have as many makers as possible so that you can find what you need in that flowering field. And that's why I think flowering the field at a time when they're trying to repress it is an act of high moral consciousness. And so I would say water the field, and you'll get what you need out of makers, because makers are always making on their terms. And you know, and so I'm always nervous when I hear someone say, you know, what can artists do? I think if you want to do something immediate, get in the streets, because you're going to need to be out there soon, because it is going to get hot in America as soon as those things begin to manifest themselves. And I knew, because I grew up in the heat, and I can feel the kindling right now.
Well, as someone who's has always been at the edge of making work that is connected to the climate through immigration, body politics, but I hadn't really ever touched it directly until the last 6 years. One of the things that I've come to realize, an epiphany, was, well, one of the things I came to observe was that I was often, for example, one of the few women surfing at Ocean Beach. And I was one of the, and probably I'm the only Mexican woman surfing at Ocean Beach. So one, access is the first thing. Who has access to these natural landscapes, to these environments that provide just moments of awe and beauty. And we think about San Francisco and the water is 52 degrees. So obviously you need neoprene. Neoprenes are about $200, $300. So even just to be aware and be able to enjoy spaces like that, you need to have access. And one of the things that as a social sculptor that I've been trying to work on and work with are different communities. So I've partnered up with Me Water Foundation, which is a group that brings Black and brown kids from the Bayview to different shorelines and teaches them how to surf. And I told the director, Eddie, I said, let's add art at the end of that session. Let me write a grant so we can do workshops where these kids experience the ocean, they learn how to surf, they learn how to be part of a wave through surfing. They experience the ocean as joy, not just as a threat. And then we'll do workshops with a poet afterwards. So they will have the immediate sound, taste, somatic response from the ocean to a poetic workshop, from the ocean to a dance workshop, from the ocean to a painting workshop. And it is a way to help bridge the senses, the action, the environment, and the creative alignment within them. And we had some of the most incredible just work that erupted from that, because that's exactly what happened. Kids and youth just erupted with all these different manifestations of sounds and movements and dances. And if we can find more ways of connecting joy, and like I said, I think that there's the awareness, there's access, and there's the beginning of agency, because you created this access through action. And once you have that agency, then they will become the best spokesperson for the environment.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you. No, I mean, you actually led right into my next question, which was, what gives you joy? What gives you hope? What inspires you?
The making of art is what inspires me, and the everyday. But I just want to add on to what both of you said, that I think that the younger people are introduced to the arts, the better. The better. When I was doing the adjunct shuffle, along with working at Juvenile Hall and then running a program in East Oakland and raising 2 kids, I had firsthand experience. And at one point, I was teaching at-risk kids right across the street from CCA. And, they were bad. God damn, they was bad. But by the end of the semester, they were begging, "Can Miss Howard, please? We'll be good. We'll be quiet. Can we not go to detention and come and do art?" And that alone was a change. I mean, and I remember one of my students said, "Miss Howard, art is my personal savior." I know, personal savior. So I think that I don't want anyone telling me what to make and why I have to make it. Of course I believe in social justice, but I don't want to when I said that art is a form of freedom of speech, I truly believe that. I don't want someone to introduce me to say, Mildred Howard, African American artist. Mildred artist, Black art. What the fuck is Black art and African American artist? Don't say that. I can't stand it. It's silly. It's like silly. It's as if that we are not a part of the world and that we don't know what's happening. We are so in tune to what's happening on this hyper level. And we are part of it. So all of that, you have to do this, you have to do that, And I understand, I mean, it's all these movements. First it was like multiculturalism, then cultural diversity, then people of color. Oh, we all got color. We all got color. It's just silly. It's silly.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Well, back to you, Anna and Teresa, you sort of talked about joy with the surfing and I don't know what gives you joy, what gives you hope, Dewey?
Coming to some place like this.
Yeah.
That really gives me joy.
Yeah.
You know, I have spent the last 30 years maybe going to the pier and walking, as you can see, to try to stay functional. I walked the pier before I went to teach and before, coming home into my studio. I would go on the pier. And, beauty is a strange thing. And making part of it is joyful, but joy is not the point for me. Joy is an outcome, but part of it is a struggle. It's rather like you saying, freedom without struggle. That ain't possible. And joy is a precious thing, and you have to have it as a human being, and you have to have it in an environment that washes over you. And we are fortunate in California because you can get away and go to a washing place so that you can either take children to a place to be reborn. There's a African proverb that when you pass over water, you are reborn. And this is a powerful thing to me. I've lived next to water for all of my 75 years. And whenever I'm far away from it, it's a depression kind of situation. Mm-hmm. But in California, you can go to many different kinds of terrain. And that is so extraordinarily joyous. Mm-hmm. to watch those women row up this canal. That was a joy. Mm-hmm. To look out over the skies of San Francisco, that's a joy. So those are extreme joys that you have to attune yourself to really get synced up with. And I've had 75 years to do that syncing, and I'm working on it every day. I'm working on it right this minute. And as soon as I leave, I'm gonna tune up a bit.
One of the things that brings me joy, I was going to San Francisco from the other day to do something. Suzanne Jackson is in town.
Right.
And
Wonderful.
I'm thinking, this is so beautiful. The clouds were gray, and you saw little bits of blue. I turned on my radio, and they were playing Coltrane, and I'm thinking, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. I'm listening to Coltrane while driving across the Bay Bridge.
Yeah.
That brings me joy.
There you go. I can see it now.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to news and things like that. I want to stay in this positive vibe because I feel like we have such a wonderful opportunity to talk about the commonality of our interests here and our shared values and culture of artists as the leaders of our community, not on the side, but the main event is really the arts and the artists and the makers, looking at art, making art, talking about ideas, talking about art, and how we can nurture and support and flourish even in really difficult times. It's really I think it's part of the whole tone of the exhibition, Rising Tides, is how, art continues to thrive and find new ways of talking about ideas, but also spreading joy to the viewers and to people who are experiencing it and participating in it. And I feel like it's, for me, I'm not a maker. I'm looking at art. And so for me, when I'm living with art, like if I'm looking at a container ship, when I went to Dewey's studio, he didn't know I had an obsession with container ships. He was shocked. And the whole time I lived in North Beach and I had a 4-flight walk-up apartment, I would just see these beautiful, incredibly colorful container ships just booking across the bay, like 5 or 6 of them every couple of hours. And I was just like, what is in there? What is in there? I just was, and when Dewey was doing his container ship series, I was just like, I got to go see those paintings. And then when you have these little tiny paintings that are collages and you're using sequins, pieces of fabric with sequins to be water in your small container ship collages, I was like, oh my God, that is just brilliant. And that sparked joy in me. I just was like, man, how many of those can I take home? Because it brought so much light and movement and the way we see our landscape, the way we see our world, and we translate it into color and into feelings, whether they're fleeting or they stay. How we transmit that to other people is really such a gift.
Can I say something?
Please.
I'm sorry. Making is something that human beings have in common, and all human beings are makers. That's part of our nature. That's why I use the term maker, because an artist is a specialized thing that culture uses to make a distinction between a person who has a particular talent that the culture has put over here in order to use it as a framework for liberation and all these things, as long as the person is designated an artist because they're successful, like Picasso. But if you're struggling, well, then you're a tree falling in the forest. Mm-hmm. But for me, what is so important is that collectors are also making a particular thing. They make a way of organizing ideas that manifest in forms that are brought together in a framework that feeds them. Mm-hmm. and the people who come around it. And then sometimes they get publicized so that they feed a larger community. And so a collector is a kind of maker too. And so for me, the making of a space that makes place is really essential in the process of making. I'm not pumping up collectors or jamming them because they are like Gagosian or somebody. But I think the way that work gets into the world is extremely important, and that we are becoming more sophisticated, or at least we were until 3 months ago when this attempt to open up culture and open up the history of making. You know, when I was young, the highest form of making was abstract expressionism, and the trail was not Africa, but Europe. And therefore, that dialogue between Africa and Europe, which was based on a colonial framework, really shot past because they were talking about something that had to do with politics, while at the same time telling me that art was not about politics. Art was about quality, not politics. But art has always been about politics. That's the nature of art, because that's the nature of the polis. We are political animals like we are everything else. And now there is a need to go to struggle against the process of denial that is being put in place all over again, so that this rising tides that create tsunamis for some and a smooth ride for others is something that we have to work our way through. And hopefully there'll be more people who cultivate the creative process than not. And you know, that's my hope, that we make it through that aspect of our present.
Can I riff on you?
Of course. You're a riffer, so I'm waiting.
I think it's a community of, when you say maker, I would then add cultivator, because the root or the etymology of the word culture, culturare, which is to cultivate. So what are we cultivating? What are we making? What are we putting into the ground to then give fruit? The artist, the institution, the consultant, we're all harvesting. We're all cultivating. And so when we don't have the steadfast anchor of a ministry of culture, which a lot of countries have, to steer the productivity and the continued growth and cultivating, it's left up to us. And we need each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I want to thank you for, sharing your ideas. This has been great. And I wonder does anybody in the audience want to ask questions? Yeah, I would open it up to the audience for questions if anyone is.
Well, I just want to say that the impetus for making the museum was based on the idea that I was selfish. I wanted a village. I wanted a village of people, like-minded people, and like-minded pursuit of art. Artists who were pursuing in a like-minded way as myself. And to surround myself with the art, with the people, was to me like heaven. But of course, there's work to be done. Together, we're a village. We can't just party. We have to work. And to do the work is what you guys have all expressed. Different ways of working, encouraging the youth, seeing what the youth are losing. Noticing how, I don't see any difference with this. Hold on.
It was on.
It's on.
Yeah, that's on.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay, cool. Yeah, and then everybody has different ideas for each of us to do, amplify the goodness that we can bring into the world and influence I love the ideas about the youth. I haven't done that recently. I haven't thought about that in a long time, but I used to when my kids were younger, and the importance of arts in the schools. And I know ages ago, if you remember Henry Hopkins at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, he was a big proponent of arts in the schools because of troubled kids or just kids who just think visually, which is where I put my category. I was definitely that. And that you just saw pleasure in visually. And so as a village, we can feed each other and amplify the goodness of our best nature. That's just a thought. That's just a thought. Who else wants to ask these brilliant artists a question?
Oh, we've got somebody on here.
Just one. I'll speak loud because it's a short question. What are the threats and possibilities presented by technology now? Because we're facing a period in which that becomes an immediate problem, if not a possibility.
What's good is that we don't have to do paste up and layout to print something right now. And the other thing is that, I mean, I still like to type on the typewriter, but spell check is so great. You know? Yeah. Or if I forget something and I'm thinking, oh, I'll just Google it. I don't have a phone with a cord on it. So I think progress is always great. I mean, when the computer first came out, everyone was kind of freaked out. Just take it and run with it.
Yeah.
That is, amen. That right there is through time. That's the one. Because the daguerreotype came and it liberated makers from having to go to people with money to make them look extraordinary for the world so that they could exude power. Now, that meant that artists had to find another way to speak with that material, and they created another visual context that served the creative process. And initially, makers get nervous, but some makers go wow, and others go crazy, and they make something that was never thought about before. And that's why I embrace technology. I mean, I don't have it on right now, but I'm full of it. It's all over me. But I would say it's the intention of the manipulators of technology who are going to use it to rip people off. Mm-hmm. It's going to be something that, again, you have to organize to stop ripologists from ripping you and your creativity. Now, that's a war that we are going to have to participate in, and people with bread can help fund that war. But I'm not nervous about AI. I think artists are going to take AI and beam it up.
Yep.
And they're going to make differently and more explosively. I mean, think, for example, of what Zoom did in the positive way and in the negative way, and think what YouTube did. people all over the world can see her performance if she puts it in that space. And people all over the world can be inspired by it. So that's a collapse of one kind of gatekeeper. And therefore, creative people have been able to push it wherever they want it to go. And so it's like this moment. Everybody's saying, well, we're frightened. I said, frightened? This is the most important creative time in the last 40 years. This is the moment. Because this is what great shit comes from. You need this energy right here. This is what makers are made for. And that's why this is the most wonderful time. It is not, under any circumstances, a time to be nervous. This is a time to use that nervous energy and go fucking wild. Because that is so what this bullshit brings on in the creative arena. And so, I tell all of the young people I see, eat this up, soak this up. I grew up in this. This is what made me. This is what I was born into. I was born into a country that was an apartheid state. And then for 15 years, I was in apartheid. And then I was able to participate in the energy that changed it. So that now, for 40-something years, we didn't have to live in that state. But believe me, like Frederick said, power concedes nothing. And they drip, drip, drip their way on up into this blonde-haired, blue-eyed, green-faced person. And we, even though I'm crumped over and gravity is working every day on me, I'm ready to go. I'm pumped up like Obama said, and ready to go.
Fired up, ready to go.
I'm all that. I get energy in these gravity-prone phones.
So with that energy, can I propose that we make a tsunami wave in here through social sculpture? And you lead it on this side at the count of 3. So if we're gonna make a social sculpture in here right now. So on this side, we're gonna start and we're gonna go this way at the count of 3, and we're gonna yell really loud because we're bringing in the energy.
And we're gonna move?
No, you're just gonna, the wave, just the wave.
Okay.
Like in a football arena, right?
What do we yell?
Whatever you wanna do, if you wanna stand out, but we're starting from this side. Ready?
Okay.
1, 1, 2, 3. And on the way back, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's like church.
Yeah.
You took us to church.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. And I want to make a brief pitch. Marta has a fabulous show that is up at Anglin Trimble Gallery at Minnesota Street Project. It's up for one more week. And Marta's giving a talk at the gallery on Saturday, the 26th, on closing day at 3 p.m. So if you haven't seen it yet, gotta get in and see it. It's really amazing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to thank, where is Christina? Christina, could, let's see. I have some flowers hidden in there that I want to give you. Christina did all of this. She's my amazing stand-up. And thank you. Thank you, every one of you. It was really a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
thank you for inviting us. Thank you to invite us to come and, have this conversation in your beautiful space. It's really
Well, it gives me joy. It gives me joy
Yeah.
to be with you and to make art. Like Mildred and I bond on that. It's like you have problems, go make art. Make your art. And what was it your student said to you? She said,
Miss Howard, art is my personal savior.
I just want to say, Miss Howard, art is my personal savior.
Yeah.
I think there's
What?
There's still food outside and drink. And the gallery is open for another
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
half hour.